Pathfinder chooses balance over fun, is the claim that some commenters online have made. Now, if true, this sounds like a serious accusation. Who chooses balance over fun in a game? What kind of unimaginative accountant designed this? Well, before we take the complaints super seriously, let's first figure out what type of fun is being discussed here. Because in tabletop role-playing games, there is a large variety in just the types of fun available. And we can also ask ourselves the question that this balance thing that people are complaining about, is that supporting a type of fun as well? Hey everyone, Utkarsh from Spirit Bell Games here. One thing I want to make very clear at the start is that this whole discussion about balance versus fun, sometimes it undersells how imaginative Pathfinder is as a game, because in talking about the mechanics, we lose the thread of how many character concepts can be expressed in this game. Not just the usual traditional D20 concepts like your angry barbarian and the wild shaping druid, but also just off the walls wild stuff like an undead skeleton summoning a psychopomp, or a rogue scoundrel that's actually a chronoskimmer jumping across time, or even a thaumaturge exorcist that is a vigilante and has mechanical support for their dual identities. It is this broad imagination that brings people in to play the game in the first place. So many wild concepts that can be expressed. And so this is not the type of fun that people are saying the game suppresses when they talk about Pathfinder choosing balance over fun. So then we have to figure out what is fun that is being talked about here. And to understand that, we need to discuss one other concept, which is tension. Tension is uncertainty. Normally it is uncertainty over whether decisions will lead to successful outcomes. Tension in tabletop role-playing games, including Pathfinder 2nd Edition, comes at the character building level and also at the encounter level. In character building, the tension usually comes from trying to shore up your weaknesses while trying to highlight or empower your most powerful strengths. And in combat, the tension comes from the question, who will win? Once that question is resolved in either direction, the tension is essentially gone. So in a lot of tabletop role-playing games, we actually see three different forces at play, and they interact with the central concept of tension. Enemies and hazards increase tension. Players with their character builds and their tactics and their teamwork, they reduce the tension. And the third force are the dice, the agent of randomness that put their hands on the scales to create uncertainty even when things would otherwise be certain. Now let's go to the player part of that equation. Players, I said, reduce the tension. Players want to reduce this tension. And as Soren Johnson, the lead designer of Civilization 4, infamously said, given the opportunity, players will optimize the fun out of a game. And when he uses the word fun, he is talking about tension. Now I have two things to say to Soren Johnson. One is that this is a good thing. This is a good drive for players to have, because this is how they engage with both the character building side of things, as well as being engaged on a round by round basis in combat. And the second thing I would say to Soren Johnson is, if you are worried about the players actually optimizing all the fun out of your game, design a better game. For a tabletop role-playing game comparison, prior to playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition, I played a mage in a different game. And in that game, by making appropriate selections during character building and spell selection, I was able to build my character in such a way that I could hard shut down vast swaths of encounters. Going up against groups of enemies was easy mode because I could put down a wall, an impenetrable wall, to divide up one difficult fight into two easy ones. Or I could hypnotize half the enemies into just not participating in the combat until the remaining enemies were cleared. This, to me, was fun. And drilling down to the core experience, the fun was not just reducing the tension of the fight, but fully deflating it. It was taking a pin and popping the balloon that has the word tension written on it. And this is the fun that Pathfinder 2nd Edition says no to. Pathfinder 2nd Edition says that when you build your character, you cannot make them in a way that you can cover all possible situations equally well while not having any major weaknesses. It says that when a combat encounter occurs, you cannot make one very smart play at the very start of the first round of combat, which completely eliminates tension from the rest of the fight. Even if you put up a wall, enemies will have ways to break through it. If in character creation you want to play a mage, then you cannot also pick spells that will cover all of the weaknesses that mages have but martials don't. And it is when this type of mechanical restraint is encountered, especially by new players, that the claim is made that Pathfinder chooses balance over fun. When what is really happening is Pathfinder is choosing the fun of tactics and teamwork over the fun of deflating tension by a single player making character creation decisions. So why does it do so? Why does it prioritize the tactics and teamwork type of fun over the character creation, silver bullets, simple solutions to character building and encounter problems? To discuss the why, we have to discuss each source of tension individually. First, the character building side and then the encounter side. On the character building side, this inability to just shore up all your weaknesses, to make it so that a mage can't just summon a pseudo martial and then let the summon take place of a martial for when the mage build would be weak but the martial would be strong. This kind of character building tension encourages teamwork. It makes you rely on your team to cover your weaknesses instead of you just building those weaknesses out of the character. It also supports all of those imaginative character concepts that I talked about at the start of this video. Because otherwise, when you have these many different imaginative options, but some of them combine with each other in degenerate ways, a significant part of the player base, myself included, it gravitates towards those powerful options because you want to still feel effective in combat. And if everyone else is working at twice the power of you, then you just feel useless. So by maintaining this tension and balance, all of those wild varieties of character expressions still have some amount of usage. It's possible that you pick something that ends up being 20%, 25% less powerful than the most powerful character on your team, but that doesn't prevent you from still feeling like you're contributing to combat. And then in-combat tension creates engagement. It lets players be involved and think tactically round after round, instead of just the first round, someone resolves the fight, and then the remaining rounds of combat are just a slog that's a cleanup. It also maintains the narrative coherence of the threat that the story has set up. If you have a lich that is 5 levels higher than you, well, in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, that's a serious threat that you probably should not go against. Whereas in another game, you can arm yourself with the appropriate spells and character building options that the party can just laugh as they take out and completely shut down this higher level lich. Additionally, for the GM, this reduces prep time significantly. In systems where the tension can be easily deflated, the GM preparation has to either just not care about it and let their combat be deflated over and over again, or they have to spend hours designing that perfect encounter which threads the needle, avoiding all of the most overpowered tension deflating options while also avoiding TPKs and still letting players feel useful with their abilities. I can tell you from experience, that is a lot of work that I no longer have to do now that I'm running Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Now, there are other games as well that do a good job of maintaining this balance, this tension that is required for tactics. A lot of the well-reputed tactical games do this, and they need to do this because tactics has a very strong need for tension to exist. Tactics presents a whole bunch of different options, but if there's insufficient tension, then there's no need to consider choosing between those different options. Then it's just a matter of cool character expression, right? Like, oh, today I feel like throwing out this spell versus tomorrow I feel like throwing out this other spell, and we're going to win either way. So for tactics to matter, you need the tension, and that's why tactical games tend to prioritize this tension, often by creating some kind of balance across different player options. The thing that stands out to me with Pathfinder 2nd Edition that's unique, or that feels unique to me, let me know if there are other examples you know of, is that it's such a maximalist game in terms of having so many different varieties of classes, feats, backgrounds, archetypes, items, spells, and yet all of those can still be combined in ways where the tension is still maintained. Whereas generally what I've found is in games that have lots of these combinable options where you can multi-class, you can find degenerate combinations. And so to have the best of both worlds, to have the players be able to pick and combine and make these very unique characters and still have the game maintain the tension, that is why Pathfinder 2nd Edition is my game of choice for running long-form fantasy campaigns. Well, that and narrative coherence, which I talked about, where a threat that I set up in the narrative ends up usually being a threat in combat as well, mechanically. Now, you may have concerns about specific options, and in the extended video on Patreon for free, you can watch me talk about summoning spells, counterspell, the action inflexibility of classes like Alchemist, Gunslingers, and also, maybe most controversially, a segment about Timber Sentinel. Again, the video is available for free. You can just go to patreon.com/spiritbellgames and check it out. Tension in Pathfinder 2nd Edition is the beating heart of the game, and that's why I think it's worth preserving. For now, this is me signing off, wishing you all engaging games.